this speech, this is my icebreaker, and I titled this one Changing the Game, because really that's what my life has been about. From the very beginnings of what I can even remember, in my short life, that's kind of an oxymoron, but I can vividly remember growing up with that sensation of powerlessness, that stuck feeling that a lot of us get when we are trapped in positions to which our souls really can't feel totally free in. I grew up, ironically enough, that you wouldn't know this from my family nowadays, but in that almost borderline poverty level. And I grew up in this section while going to school in people who were upper middle class. One can only imagine the amount of dichotomy that creates for a person of this stature. So I spent my entire life trying to figure out, first I approached this from science, trying to figure out how does one change one's own life. I remember very much getting engrossed in science, which is my escape at the time. I loved learning about technology and how these things improved our lives and how they changed the way in which we lived. And to be changing the way in which we lived also changed the way in which we prosper. After a while, I kind of got to the point where I learned that looking things like this while it could change society, it was hard to change ourselves just from looking and staring at pretty little tech devices, all these little gizmos and gadgets. This led me to start actually a deeper looking into myself and philosophies and spiritualities. For a long time, refused to acknowledge myself as any one particular faith because the dogmas I had seen were just as entrapping as anything else I had experienced to that date. I eventually did embrace the idea of Wicca, and that was the kind of the height of being more spiritual than I was reason, which anyone who has been in any form of this can realize that once you get to a point where your faith and your symbols of your faith override your reason, you become just as lost as if you were focusing too much on materialism and not enough on what you are as a human being outside of what society deems you to be. That would be a long story in and of itself, but let's just say that the levels of fantasy one can get off to, if you're in the wrong structures there, can be quite detrimental to one's well-being and can look very much like full-blown insanity. Thankfully, I've gotten out of that degree of things, but I did embrace. But what I did come out of that was with a deep respect for the fact that on our spiritual quest, it's really learning to see the symbolic nature of things. And when you can see the symbols and the patterns of life and within yourself, you'll be surprised just how much these can quickly translate to the rest of our world. So there is a lot of wisdom in, if you can know yourself, you can know the world. And since then, my greatest ambitions have been to try to take these learnings and the increased learnings that I gained from people such as Corey Stone and Ray and from people like this and from people here to learn how to change the games that we play. One of the biggest things I would love to alter is the fact that people in the lower echelons of the capitalist society normally don't have access to the resources that could allow them to thrive. We have how many skills and talents get wasted from people that are locked up on the treadmill when they could really be doing something constructive with skills and talents, really producing something of value rather than just running in circles in the rat race. I say that we should take some of the things we are learning and learn how to change the games that we play, learn to get off the treadmill and actually learn what it is to build something both for ourselves and then contribute that to building something truly constructive for society. If we do this, I believe that we can not only finally live a society which we both fulfill ourselves and and continue to add value and grow a society that we can all truly be proud of, both within ourselves and for the betterment of the human race and the world.